2023, and this is Wake Up GI with Jeffrey Smith. As promised, we've got some very interesting guests in studio right now to kind of kick off our Wednesday, and one of these guests that I've known for a pretty long time, and like I said, she is somebody that was very close to somebody very close to me. And so with that being said, we're going to go ahead and let them introduce themselves and talk about a wonderful event that's coming up, and I believe it's called Rebuilding Our Community For Us, By Us. It's going to take place on October 15th all the way through the 20th from 6 p.m. until 7 at 1765 Tyler Street, beautiful Gary, Indiana. And of course, that is the Moorish Science Temple of America, temple number 5. And once again, they've got a number of events coming up, as a matter of fact. October 19th from 6 p.m., they've got a men and women clothing giveaway. And then the very next day on the 20th, they've got an event where you can come to learn about the Moorish Science Temple of America. So with that, I want to introduce our guests because this is going to be a pretty interesting conversation, I believe. And so we'll start with ladies first. Go ahead, Ms. Bay.
Good morning. I'm Karima Hassan Bay. I'm the National Chairman of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Temple number 5, and a native of Gary, Indiana.
Absolutely, you are. And then, of course, this gentleman right here.
Good morning. I am Rasul Hassan Bay, National Grand Sheikh of Temple number 5 in Gary, Indiana. I'm a transplant to Gary, though. So
Yeah.
I've been there over 20 years, so I'm
Oh,
officially
you're one of
Gary.
us. Yes,
Yes,
you
sir.
are. Yes,
Yes, sir.
absolutely. Well, before we get to the event, I know there are a lot of people that are tuning in right now this morning, kind of wondering a little if you can kind of explain what the Moorish culture or what you do at the Moorish Temple and things like that.
Sure. Moorish Science Temple of America was founded in 1913 A.D., a long time ago.
Yes.
So it's not a new product by Prophet Noble Drew Ali. When you say prophet, I think people kind of shy away. All divine prophets as being equal. So that being said, we know that God loved his people enough to send him a divine healer.
Right.
And in that science, we at the Moorish Science Temple of America talk about nationality and divinity.
Yes.
Nationality being a part of who we are socially,
Yes.
and along with other social groups.
Yeah.
So, and even nationality is defined in the Black's Law Dictionary as being a quality or characteristic that arises from the fact that a person belongs to a nation or a state.
Right.
And that being said, I think one of the most interesting parts left out of that definition is it determines political status.
Okay.
And in
Elaborate on that. That's
sure,
interesting.
Sure. And in determining political status, it means you have a buy-in to the politicians that run your area.
Okay.
And if you have a buy-in,
you're on the right show for this. Go ahead.
if you have a buy-in for those political figures that run your area,
Yeah.
they have a responsibility to you. And in that responsibility, it's kind of an ebb and flow, or two sides to a coin.
Right.
Where you are just as responsible for your success as they are, and they are just responsible for their success as you are. So that being said, it's a social, economic, valuable part of the community that myself and the members of our temple are trying to bring that structure back to where we're inclusive in our community. Not, if you Google Moorish Science Temple, you may get some information about us being a dropout culture.
Yeah. Something
sovereign.
like it's very communal.
Correct.
And
Correct.
those are kind of the things from the outside that I was assuming that you all were. But I mean,
Right.
that's why I'm giving you the opportunity to kind of elaborate because I think this is interesting.
Sure, and assumptions are necessary because
Yeah.
you're pulling from a resource of information that you already have.
Right.
This is why we wanted to come in the public to say,
Nice.
just the same as all other groups, like in Christian groups, they're not all the same. So once you have the access to somebody who's really in the movement,
Yes.
we ask you not to Google it. You can come over and talk to us.
There you go. That's
and,
what
and see who we are. So that part of it is the aspect that we're trying to put back out there, to talk to the people that actually belong in the foundation of what Prophet Noble Drew Ali brought to us.
Now, is it based off of a doctrine? Obviously, when we think about our major religions, Islam, Christianity, Judaism, and things like that, obviously it relates to a book, a doctrine, some
Sure.
kind of tenet that it's built on. I've always looked at maybe from the outside, the Moors to be kind of more based off lineage and ethnicities and things of that nature. I mean, what's your doctrine?
Our doctrine is we have a Quran called the Moorish Science Temple of America, the Circle 7 is affectionately known as the Circle 7, but it's the Moorish Science Temple of America Quran.
Yeah.
And it is excerpts from different literature that's already written However, it is founded on the idea that Islam supports the people.
Okay.
And this Islam that Prophet Noble Drew Ali brought supports the people he was sent to save.
Yeah.
Right? So when we look at what that means is it's dedicated to the uplifting of fallen humanity, but more importantly, dedicated to the people that look like you and I.
Right.
Because when you have prophets come to a group of people, those are the people in the worst need.
Yeah.
In the worst state.
Yes.
So our people, as you can see, have an idea that all these things that are happening to them may be by another group of people. Well,
Right.
sometimes we have to take onus in that as well.
Right.
Muhammad Ali once said something that I thought was very, very important. He said that if you take our people and you put them in rich neighborhoods, they'll turn it into a ghetto.
Right.
Because the ghetto is not outside of our people, it's inside.
It's inside of us.
So this religious structure that Prophet Noble Drew Ali brought was to change the idea of the way we think.
Yeah.
And to get us to think positively about ourselves first before we could think positively about each other.
Now let me ask you this, because this is interesting, because we talk on this show kind of about this as it relates to my spiritual recharging that I undergo all the time, and the guy that I kind of use is Louis Farrakhan. I'm not a Nation of Islam or anything of that nature, but you know, every once in a while to keep myself from going too far to the right, I have to kind of center myself, and I just sit there as an individual who wants to be taught, who wants to learn, and hear a lot of nationalistic kind of talk about my group. And I even tell some of my Jewish friends who I can understand that they might not like what Louis Farrakhan says at times, and I can appreciate that. But for me, as a person, sometimes I need to hear things to help me grow. And so what I would ask about this, is this kind of in that vein? Is it kind of is Islam like an offshoot of it, like a denomination like what we have with Christianity?
Well, it's not an offshoot. Every religious idea is to support the people it was sent to. So,
right.
So even in that, Farrakhan, and we give all honors to Farrakhan as well, and all the religious groups that are supportive, because truth transcends religious ideas, right?
Yes.
So you can get truth from rabbis, you can get truth from Louis Farrakhan, you can get truth from Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, Confucius.
Yeah.
So that's what true Islam is, because Islam traditionally means peace.
Right.
Peace with everything around you. So it's not a religious overtone, it's an expression of self. It's a spiritual nature.
Yeah.
So yeah, we listen to Farrakhan. Are we in agreement with everything any religious organization says? No.
No, right.
But we are in the idea that if it's out of love, and if the principle of love is at the forefront, then we can establish the same faith. We don't have to establish the same practice.
Yeah.
We can have the same faith in believing that no matter what faith that you have, our people are in need of something.
Yeah.
And we need to start getting back to the community idea of who we are as a people. Because some of us live on blocks and we don't even know our neighbors.
Right. You're absolutely right.
If you even have neighbors on your block, you don't even have any interactions with them.
Right.
But what does that say about you as a person?
Yeah.
That you don't have this part of you that's willing to be sacrificed to see what that person is going through.
Right.
Because a lot of times you see people, they are what we say in different boats, but they're in the same lake.
Yeah.
But you have no idea somebody's next to you paddling just as hard, going through something just as difficult, because you're so caught up in your own turmoil. So what our religious idea teaches is to first love yourself before you can start to go out and love somebody else.
Absolutely.
And it's the internal study, not me persecuting you for what you're doing.
Yes.
But to look at ourselves internally and see how we can fix that, and then go out and communicate with others that idea of how we in fact fix ourselves.
Now, before I go to Kareem Bey, because I want to tell both of you all, this is kind of very apropos, and maybe it's coincidental that you're on here on this at this time, because we've been having some very serious discussions, obviously, about the events that are taking place in the world. And, you know, as we as Americans, and then specifically as Black Americans, try to sit here and analyze all this information and figure out where we fit in, or if we fit into this, I think that it's so appropriate that you are on here, because right now I see a lot of stuff on social media in which you have, you know, Black Americans, you have people who are obviously feel some sort of sympathy towards the Palestinian plight. But there's also, I've always believed this, and we had a conversation on our show about this yesterday as these events start to kind of break out, is that I also think that there is a misrepresentation of Islam that is going on, that a lot of us need to kind of get out of our emotions and take an opportunity to understand before we start to come to these conclusions. And so I think that by you all being on here really kind of talking about it in the manner that you're doing is really doing some real justice out here, like above the events that you're doing locally. I really do want to thank you for that. So I want to go over to Karim Band, and then we'll come back to some more interesting parts of this conversation. But tell us about the events that are coming up and what led to you all doing this.
Yep, so really what led us is really feeding off the same commentary that Rasul Hassan Bey has spoken to, is that we have a responsibility in the community to help, to give back, to provide resources, to provide a safe haven. There's so many people struggling that are sitting right next to us.
Yes.
And we have accountability in that. I believe over time, you can blame it on COVID, but I think it was pre-COVID as well.
Yeah.
People just want to take care of themselves.
Right.
Right. They just think about what I need, what I can have, what I can do, but there's a community around you that's suffering.
Yeah.
So part of one of our major tenets of the Moorish Science Temple of America is to uplift fallen humanity.
Yeah.
And that starts in the community. That starts with feeding people, listening to people,
Right.
giving them references or referrals to go somewhere else for help, opening our doors so they can get a different perspective about life in general, not necessarily religion,
Right.
but nationality, what divinity means, what self-love means. So our responsibility as a temple is to open our doors, right? So what better way to do that than to have a community event?
Yeah.
So every year, October 15th through the 20th, since Prophet Noble Drew Ali founded the Moorish Science Temple of America, we have our convention.
Right.
So this is actually our convention week that's coming up.
Okay.
And during convention, you educate people about the Moorish Science Temple of America, but more importantly, you provide opportunities for people to be able to get what they need, whether it's food, clothing, referring them to the trustee office to be able to find some shelter. But it really is about embracing diversity and inclusion. Everybody has a place in this world, and we're no different.
Right.
We don't teach that if you don't belong to the Moorish Science Temple of America, then you're doing it wrong.
Right.
That's not what we teach. We embrace all true and divine prophets. So that's, I think, what helps us to stand out when people start to really ask questions about what we're about, to understand that it's not just, this person, this way.
Right.
We're very diverse in ourselves.
Yes.
When we look, people will say to us, well, you're Islamic, how come you don't have on a hijab?
Right.
That's not part of our custom.
Right.
Right? So there's different things that people can learn, but this event is going to be something I think that's going to help people to be educated around what the Moorish Science Temple of America means, and to have people in the community that are well known, maybe not well known, to come in and have a voice.
Right.
That's why we're having Senator Eddie Melton.
Exactly.
That's why we're having Kimberly Robinson. That's why we're having members of our own temple with Cedric Griffinell and Jeff Alexander Bay come in and talk about entrepreneurship. And then we're going to talk about health and wealth. We have Rob Bernal Fitness.
Nice.
And a nurse, Cassandra Gatewood, to talk about what it means to make sure that you check on yourself,
Right,
check your vitals, exercise, because those are the things we don't have in our community.
Yeah.
People don't talk about, but we're in the worst condition when it comes to those things.
Yeah.
Having your own businesses, taking care of your health, being educated about political status, why it's important for you to be engaged. So that's why we decided that we needed to just get out more. This is our second year doing this, and we're learning, right? We're learning as we're growing and trying to figure things out. So that was one of the main reasons why we wanted to make sure that we got out of it.
And I think you're starting off on a very good note, because obviously when you're talking about clothing giveaways and when you're talking about bringing people in, and then you're as you said, you're making yourselves available for people to ask questions, and that's why we appreciate you kind of coming back on this show. I want to get back into the science, though, or the belief system of the Moorish Temple, because I think this is an interesting conversation that people are probably very curious about. So, where can this be traced back to? Is there a point in time in which this sect kind of broke off and started to kind of grow and build itself?
Sure. So in 1913 in Newark, New Jersey, Prophet Noble Drew Ali founded what was called the Moorish Holy Temple of Science. And he changed the name to Moorish Science Temple of America.
Right.
In 1923 or 1920s, in the 1920s.
Yeah.
But in that effect, when you talk about Islam, I think a lot of our people assume or have the assumption that Muhammad is the standard.
Yeah, because I was going to ask that next. I was going to say, how close do you follow the teachings of Muhammad?
And we do.
Is he your direct prophet?
He's not our direct prophet. Prophet Noble Drew Ali is.
Okay.
But that is the idea that people assume.
Yes.
Right? But we honor all the prophets because all prophets come for the same reason. And I believe it's Surah 14, Ayah 4, Surah 14, verse 4, in the Quran that Muhammad gave his people, that says every nation is sent a messenger.
Yeah.
Which means that we have the right as humans.
Yes.
That God loves us enough to send us somebody who speaks in our own language.
Yeah.
So you don't have to learn Arabic to be Islamic,
Right.
right? And you don't also have to practice somebody else's customs to be Islamic. You have your own. The religion, the people support the religion.
Right.
So that means that you don't have to change your name, or you don't have to change your culture.
Right.
You have your own establishment through what your prophet has given you. So our Islam is like we like to use the term, our Islam is a tailor-fitted suit rather than as opposed to buying a suit off the rack.
Now, this sounds very similar, though, to what the nation does, because, I mean, they don't kind of operate under the tenet of one prophet. Louis Farrakhan, Elijah Muhammad,
Right.
move very well inside of Christianity, and
Sure.
even that speak about the Torah and things of that nature. And so, I guess I would be asking which one was founded first, because they sound very similar.
Well, I don't have my definite idea
Answer, yeah.
of when the Nation of Islam started,
Right.
but I do know that Prophet Noble Drew Ali started this organization in 1913
Right.
AD.
Yeah.
So you would have to compare the history of the Nation of Islam to what Prophet Noble Drew Ali brought. But we do know that Islam in America at that time wasn't really fluent.
No.
So you're talking about a time where right after slavery, because Prophet Noble Drew Ali was born in 1886.
Yeah.
So you're talking about
20 years after.
Yeah, right after slavery, where our people could barely read and write.
Right.
So you're getting into an idea of post-slavery idea of trying to get our people to have a buy-in in this political system called America.
Right.
And one of his ideas was to make us better citizens.
Yeah. See, that's the similarity
Yeah.
that I'm talking about, because this is, as you said, a very tailor-made type of, I guess, belief system, and
To the African
American,
Right.
in which you kind of take accountability of yourself. And,
Correct.
and as I said, my only reference obviously is the Nation of Islam. But I remember when I was at Tuskegee, and you used to see these young men who were there, and they didn't participate in drinking. They always cared about their appearance.
Right.
They dealt with their bodies as temples in their mind, and they didn't allow any of these things. So that, as you were just explaining, they were taking care of themselves first in order to make themselves better citizens, rather than kind of the other way around.
Correct. And
Yeah.
that's the same idea that Prophet Noble Drew Ali
Nice.
has. Because when we look at what Islam is, we have the 5 pillars of faith.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that the customs that you come up with are universal.
Right.
Because like Karima was saying, we don't wear hijabs. We don't have to wear those because our customs are different from that. We wear
Right.
what's called fezzes,
Yes.
turbans,
Yeah.
Arabic robes. But when you say Arabic, you're not talking about the people you see today. You're talking about people that you would see in West Africa that look like you.
Exactly.
That look like they could be born in Gary.
Yeah.
Actually have that dark skin, but that's another history lesson that
No,
we
I
can
like
get
it.
into.
Yeah.
But it's conducive to the people that it was sent to save, because after slavery, our people were in the worst state. Some of them didn't even know slavery was over.
Right.
Hence Juneteenth.
Exactly.
So you had to have all this information that was given to them in bits and pieces to people who couldn't read, to people who didn't necessarily know how to take care of themselves. So this idea gave them structure economically, socially, and politically.
Yeah.
Because if you look back in the early 1920s too, you also had guys like Louis B. Anderson,
Right.
Oscar DePriest,
Right.
running for office. But they tell you that your voting rights didn't start until 1960.
Yes.
So how could that be possible? So the idea of voting has always been a divine era in our people.
Yeah.
But we're getting away from it, because one of the things that they do is the first thing when you go to prison is they take 2 rights away from you.
Oh, your right to vote.
And your right to protect yourself with a
Exactly,
firearm.
exactly.
The 2 things that will keep you alive.
Right, right.
So, but nobody ever questions why that is.
Mhm.
Why is voting so important? So why would they take it away from you the minute they put the handcuffs on you? So this idea that Prophet Noble Drew Ali was giving us early in the 1920s in Chicago,
Right,
nonetheless,
yeah.
where there were gangsters running around and people doing all this nonsense, started a political bloc
Yes.
of Moors.
Yeah.
That he was bringing these politicians in. Same thing you see us doing today.
Yeah.
Bringing these politicians in and letting them know these are the people you're responsible for.
Right.
But have a responsibility to them, meaning check in on them. Be fluent in the aspect of who they are and
Right.
what they need.
Right.
Because if you have a pothole in front of your house, and I know our people got together and voted when Obama was running, everybody was, running around here. They were
Don't
so
get me
excited.
started.
They were so excited, right?
Yeah.
And that's fine. That's good, because it got us in the voting spirit or
Yeah,
mood, if
yeah.
you will. But when you have a pothole in front of your house that needs to get filled, Obama can't do anything for you.
No.
Joe Biden can't do anything for you.
Right.
You have to know who to contact. And
Yeah.
when you know who to contact, then you have a political ally in your community
Yeah.
that knows he or she is responsible for your vote.
Right.
And it gives you buy-in, and it also gives them buy-in. So once you have that, you have a political idea where all of the people in the community are inclusive.
Yeah.
If your son gets pulled over by the police officer and he beats him upside his head, and you don't even know who the police chief is,
Right.
you're in trouble.
Right.
But if you know who the police chief is and you may play softball with him or have a beer with him or something, it makes that police officer a little bit more timid
Yeah.
in how he approaches your child.
Absolutely.
So the buy-in in the community has to be there. It has to be there from the community aspect, and it has to be there from the political aspect.
Now let me ask you this, because obviously in the black community, you know, religion is very important, way to kind of forgive your sins and everything that you do on earth and kind of go on into, you know, a utopia. What is the divine, I guess, message? Is it similar to Islam's, or is it something more unique?
It's similar to Islam, where you have a heaven or a hell, but these are things you create sometimes right here on earth.
There you go. I like where your mind is.
You get into these ideas because when you have someone who's on drugs or can't figure out their next bill payment,
Yeah.
that's a hell they've created for themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you have this structure of humanity that you have these things going on in your life. Your hell doesn't look like mine because I didn't create your hell, you didn't create mine. But there's also a heavenly state of mind.
Yeah.
That can be created by you as well, because you can have somebody, like I said, 2 houses down from you that don't realize the rain or the storm that's taking place 2 houses away from them, because you literally have 2 people in the same neighborhood. One is in heaven and one is
Exactly.
in hell.
Exactly.
So the afterlife part of it is the responsibility that you put forth. This is like an investment in this fleshly nature that we have.
Yeah.
That you have in the afterlife. So what you do here definitely is a buy-in to what happens to you after this.
You know, I can really see this this message flourishing, and I know it kind of sounds ridiculous, but once again, I keep referencing things like the Nation of Islam and other religions, but this is perfect for men and women who need to kind of find themselves and turn themselves around, in particular prison ministries, and, you know, on the other side of the wall, because that message that you're resonating is very internal. I mean, you know, it's introspective. That's the word I'm looking for. It makes you kind of look and take stock of yourself, versus kind of going out here. And I'm a Christian, I'm Catholic and things like that, so I'm not knocking that, but I just really kind of feel the power of what you're selling right now, and I can just see how it can be received by people and who really kind of need to hear stuff like this now.
Yeah, not only people in the prison
Right,
system,
exactly,
but people in the colleges.
People in the
because
college.
Once you get into a frame mind,
People in this community.
Yeah, once you get what you need and you move away.
Right.
You know, that's not an African idea.
Right.
African ideas from Africa were tribal.
Yeah.
Where wherever you went to get your goods and your services, you brought back to the village you came from.
Exactly.
But the opposite is being taught sometimes in these schools.
Yeah.
That when you get your degree or when you get whatever it is that you
go.
need, you move to more affluent neighborhoods,
Exactly.
to people who look like you, instead of giving back to your community.
Right.
That's not the tenets of Islam that we practice.
Right.
The community is your family.
Yeah.
And if they're doing bad, you're doing bad. So you can't live in another neighborhood and say you're doing all right when the people you came from aren't.
Oh.
There's a direct connection, and this is why I say, when you look at religion as a whole, it should be a universal connection.
Yeah.
We should be studying what's going on in West Africa.
Yeah.
We should be studying what's going on with our people in the UK. We should be studying and broadening our horizons, because then you'll see we're not a minority at all.
Right.
We're the majority of people on this earth. And when we look at that as being a majority, then we can say, well, there's power in being a majority in the people. We have to start being more inclusive to that power and stop putting these walls up. I'm a Christian, you're a Muslim, you're this, you're that. When once you tear those walls down, you'll see we're just people that get pulled over just like anybody else.
No, and you know,
go to the grocery stores and have food deserts and all this other stuff going on.
No, I'm loving this conversation, because right now, specifically on social media, I've been kind of observing this kind of trend that's been going on for maybe about a year or so, and it's kind of been springing from the conversation in the United States about reparations. And one of the things we used to talk about on one of our previous shows is, obviously we support reparations. We'll get into that, but it's the men and women who have really been putting their heads together to figure this thing out have obviously based it on lineage. And you hear the terms ADOS and FBA and all these kind of things that have been kind of going on in these labels. And what it is called is caused is it's caused friction between, I guess you would say, some of the African people who are coming into the United States versus some of the quote traditional ancestors of slaves, and it's just created this whole kind of environment in which we are quote defining ourselves as not being related. I mean, we've kind of anthropologically have kind of identified Black Americans as this kind of offshoot of the Negroid race, and we're kind of our own separate entity. And what you're talking about is that we're really all connected.
Correct, and spiritually and physically.
Yeah.
So even to the point you made about reparations, it is said that Prophet Noble Drew Ali told you to keep your birth certificates and your Bible, that he was going to make call the so-called white people what we call Europeans, because everybody comes from a place, not a color.
Yeah.
So we use that term, but we don't use that to persecute our people, because that's the other part of the Moorish Science Temple of America.
I like that.
People get into these ideas where we don't use terms as Negro, Black, Colored, African American.
Yeah.
But they use that little piece of our pie and use that as its entirety.
Yes.
So we don't persecute our people for what they call themselves. We find people where they are and make sure they have the right information, because we don't use colors to describe people. We use nations and tribes to describe.
Okay.
So our Prophet Noble Drew Ali said he was going to make the European pay tenfold for and to your point, the reparation that we're due.
Yeah.
But if your birth certificate says African American, Negro, Black, or colored on it, that's how you can prove your slavery.
Right.
Because if you had your nationality taken away from you, it had to be at some point in time where it was. Now, if you come over here and you're a Sudanese,
Yeah.
or you're from Ghana,
Or Ethiopia. Yeah.
then you don't have that problem.
Right.
So this is how you differentiate the people who were enslaved versus the people who came over here with a history that wasn't taken away from them.
No, you bring up a good point, because I was like last year in November, we were over in Europe. We were based out of Bremen, Germany, where we go, and then we went to Paris, and then we went to the Netherlands. And when you're over in Europe, you do see that. I mean, when you're in Paris and there, I was around, I guess you could say Black people, but they are French.
Right.
When you go, you get what I'm saying? When I was in German, they were German. It is only over here where we start to kind of subcategorize ourselves.
And use the caste system.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is.
Yeah.
If you say you're white, you're way up here, and if I'm Black, I'm way down here.
Right.
But how do you turn that on its head to say we are equals? You put us in nations.
Yeah.
And that nation's over here, and now it's over here, so there's an equal and level playing field for us to develop from.
Right.
Right? You no longer have this caste system where we're put in these color-coded systems.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to get away from, because once you see yourself as a human being, and I see you as a human being, I value who you are.
Right.
There's value in what you can give me and value in what I can give you.
Yeah.
You have a name. You have a place that you come from. You have children.
Right.
Right? So you no longer have to have this confrontation with me now.
Exactly.
Because we can see each other as two human beings
Yeah.
from other races and other things.
Yeah.
So that's the idea of knowing who you are, as opposed to someone telling you who you are.
I like it.
And knowing who you are gives you value and a divine sense of yourself. That God loved you enough, He gave you something He gave everybody else. You're not as downtrodden as you think you are.
Yeah.
And so even in religious aspects, this is why I don't have to persecute you for being Catholic.
Right.
I know we have the same faith. We don't have to have the same practice.
Right.
Because the faith is that love transcends all those ideas and customs that we may establish through religion.
Absolutely.
But if we all have the same drive that our people need to be saved and helped and uplifted, then we can work from that point and not even look back. We can argue about which book is real and which book isn't.
Exactly.
Once our people are saved. So,
I love this. I can talk forever. I mean, this has been very. It's a great way to start my morning off on Wednesday. I got to be honest with you. This was cool. Want to get back before we get ready to wrap it up. Once again, want to talk about the event coming up. As you said, this is kind of your convention that's going on right now.
Yes.
And you're kind of opening your temple up for all to come in and be a part of. And I got to tell you, this is great for the community. The community needs things like this going on. Shout out to obviously our other partners who advertise on the station and do stuff for other religious partners. But I just think this is cool, because what it does is very communal, and it is a sense of self. And I'm always interested in things like that. So if you don't mind, Karima, just go ahead and give us some dates again.
Yep, so we kick off on Sunday, October 15th at 6 p.m. Senator Eddie Melton is going to kick off.
My dude.
Yep. On October 16th, we have Kimberly Robinson, Calumet Township Trustee, who's going to be speaking. On October 17th, we're going to have our own members, Jeff Alexander Bay and Cedric Giffernil, who are going to talk about Entrepreneurship 101,
Yeah.
do's and don'ts. And then on October 18th, we have Robin Bernal of Robin Bernal Fitness, and we have Cassandra Gatewood, RN and BSN, to talk about health and wealth. And then on Thursday, we're going to have our men and women clothing giveaway.
Yeah.
Any of you come take what you need, no questions asked. We're going to have that available. Some items are new, just so folks know. It's not just used things that are washed. And then on Friday, we're going to open up the temple, of course, at 7:30. It's the only time that's different. That's our service. We have our holy day every Friday at 7:30
Right.
at the temple, where people could come and hear and learn more about who we are and who we are not.
Right,
And,
right.
You know, erase some of those assumptions.
Yeah.
So everybody's welcome. It's open. Come, enjoy. We may have some food one day. Bring the family, but just come with an open mind and get a different perspective on what our version of Islam is.
And I want you to give me your everyday logistics for people who might want to drop by, maybe pick up literature. But before I ask that, I want to ask something else. Do you all have outreach, or do you have programming for kids, for young people who I would say, you know, right now we have a lot of our youth who probably need to hear conversations like we're having right now. And so do you all kind of outreach to the youth?
So right now we don't have anything official, but we do have children's Sunday school.
Nice.
Every Sunday at 2 p.m. at the temple, where we create an environment that's conducive to their learning depending on their age.
Right.
But we are looking to try to figure out where we can make that space in the community. So we don't have any outreach programs just as of yet.
Yeah.
But on a daily basis, every Friday at 7:30, we have our Holy Day service
Yeah.
from 7:30 to 9. Where our Divine Minister Rasul Hassan Bey officiates, and we have different speakers. But come as you are. You don't need to dress up. I mean, just come.
Yeah.
And just learn and be a part of our Sunday school service. We have Sunday school every Sunday at 12:30 p.m. at the temple.
Yeah.
Where that's truly just an open forum.
Right.
We sit around the table. We talk about what we talked about on Friday. We open it up for what questions do you have? What do you want to know? What do you want to learn? And it's a very great learning environment.
I really appreciated this, and like I said, we're going to keep letting people know about the events that are taking place, and I've definitely put in an open invitation to you two and possibly other members of your congregation to just come on in, and we'll work out so we can have some real interesting conversations, because I think that this helps everybody involved, including myself.
Yes.
Sure, absolutely.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, with that, we're going to get ready to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk to a young lady who I work with. She's behind the scenes, but we're going to talk about the Gary International Black Film Festival. Amber's here, so we're going to be sitting with her, the Urban League Young Professionals. You're listening to Wake Up GI with Jeff.